All right, here we go. Thank you everyone for tuning in for this live. My name is Francis, and yeah, welcome to this live at ProFusion, where we're going to have a little bit of a hands-on with the Fujifilm X100V and the X-Pro3. Now, we understand with the current situation, you might not be able to get to the store and see the camera in person and really kind of see it from different angles. So this is what we're going to do in this live. We're going to walk around the camera, have a look at the different buttons and accessories we can get for it, and yeah, so if you want more in-depth specification about the cameras or features, we do have some detailed first look videos on the Fuji Guys channel that you can look to. But for now, this is going to be a walk around the X100V and the X-Pro3. So without further ado, let's get started. So first, we're going to start with the X100V. So it is available in two colors. So we have the black version as well as the silver version. So I'm going to show you the two models on different angles. Personally, I really like the silver if I want to kind of show off. But that's a matter of taste. To shoot, I personally enjoy the black one more. So depends. So this is a little bit of a look around for both colors, and now we're going to get into it with the black version. So let me put the silver version aside. So let's get into it. So we'll start at the front of the camera. So we do have a front command out in the front, and then next to it we do have a lever which will allow us to switch between, let me just power on the camera, that will allow us to switch between the two options for the viewfinder. So the X100V features a hybrid viewfinder. So we have both an optical viewfinder and in an electronic viewfinder. So by pulling onto the lever, I can toggle between the electronic viewfinder and then the optical viewfinder. If I push onto the lever, I can bring up or remove an electronic rangefinder that will be at the bottom right corner of the screen, as you might be able to see in there. So if I push, I can bring it up and then make it go away. Now, one more thing I can do with this lever here is that I can pull back on it and hold, and then that will actually enable a 4-stops ND filter inside the lens. So if you want to shoot outside where it's very sunny and you want to shoot wide open, having this built-in 4-stops ND filter will be very useful. So let me just take it out. So within that lever, we actually have a function button hidden inside there. So I can click on it, and that actually gives me a function button. So I can assign whatever function I like to this button right there. Next to it, we have the AF assist lamp. So this will help us if we have to focus in lower light situation. We can use the AF assist lamp to help us focus in lower light situation. Now, this AF assist lamp also doubles as a tally light. So the X100V can actually shoot 4K video up to 30 frames per second, 8-bit internally. So if I wanted to create content with the X100V, and then I would want to put it on a tripod and film myself, I could actually have this assist lamp blink to let me know that the camera is recording. And if it would, for some reason, stop recording, the light would stop blinking. And then that way I would stop talking and know that the camera isn't recording anymore. Next to that, we do have a built-in flash. So this is quite useful if you want a fill-in flash, for example, but also this is going to be useful as, to me, the X100V is pretty much an everyday camera. If you bring it to a dinner party and you're inside and there's not a whole lot of light, having this built-in flash is quite useful to get some memories. So that's it for the built-in flash. Now we get to the lens. So the X100V is a fixed lens. camera. So the lens that's built on it is an updated. So this is the 5th iteration, and it always had a 23mm f2 on it, but this is a new version of the lens. So you get more resolution out of this lens by having this new sensor as well. You can take advantage of it. So this is the version 2 of the 23 f2, and the 23mm will give you an equivalent of 35mm. So that's pretty much my perfect focal length, if you ask me, because this is very versatile. You can shoot pretty much anything. Again, to me, this is an everyday camera. So whether I want to shoot portraits, I want to shoot street photography, this lens will do it for me. Inside the lens, we do have a leaf shutter, so that's really nice and quiet. Again, if you want to do some street photography, if I just take a picture and I can focus on something, let me just put the focus point somewhere I can focus to. You can see the leaf shutter, and it's pretty quiet. So on the lens itself, we do have a manual focus ring if we wanted to manually focus the lens. And behind that, we have the aperture ring that we can rotate, really nice and clicky. Now, behind the lens, we do have the latest APS-C size sensor, 26.1 megapixel, the X-Trans BSI CMOS 4 sensor from Fujifilm with 425 phase detection autofocus point, and we also have face and eye detection on the X100V. Again, I think a pretty nice feature to shoot street photography. I really like the face and eye detection on that because I like to photograph people whenever I do street photography. So looking on the side of the camera, we have the AF mode selector, so we can choose between single, continuous, as well as manual. Now, going to the bottom of the camera, we have the battery door. So if we open it up, we can see we have a NPW126S battery inside the Fujifilm X100V. And then next to it, we have the SD card slot, which is a UHS-1 SD card slot. Right next to it, we can see we have our tripod threads. So if we want to put a quick release plate, mount it on the tripod, we have this under the camera. Now we get to the top of the camera. So let's get around to that. So first, we do have the on and off switch right here. And within that, we have a threaded shutter button. So the shutter button, and then if you're like me and you like to customize your camera, you can put a soft release button on it. You can just screw it in. And then also you can use a mechanical shutter release that can be threaded into the shutter button. Next to it, we have a function button. So again, you can assign whatever function to this button. I personally like to set it to set the face and eye detection on and off. So if I click on it, you can see I can toggle through the face and eye auto and then have it off as well. So this is my choice in terms of the function I want to assign to this button. Behind that, we have our exposure compensation dial. So we can go up or down 3 stops, and then we can also put it to the C position and then use the front command dial to bring the exposure up or down by 5 plus or minus 5 EV. So that's useful if you like to shoot in aperture priority like I do, or in shutter speed priority. In manual, this won't have any effect on your exposure. Next, we get to the shutter speed dial. So I have it currently set to A, but we can choose our shutter speeds in full stops increment. And if we want to go in between these, we can use the rear command dial and go in between these shutter speed values, as you can see. And then we can see within the shutter speed dial, we have a little window. So that's for our ISO. So if I want to change my ISO, I simply have to pull onto the dial and then rotate to my desired ISO value and then push back down to lock it in place. So that's a really nice mechanism. I really do enjoy it on the X100V. Now, next to it, we have our hot shoe. So if we wanted to put in an external flash or a flash trigger, and then the camera comes with a nice little hot shoe protector there. So that's it for the top of the camera. Now let's get to the back of the camera. So first we have a recessed Q button for the quick menu. So it's not going to be easily pushed by mistake. So we have the Q button here to access quickly some settings, some that we can actually customize as well. So that's the Q button, which is also customizable. You can put a different function to it, or if you don't like to use the quick menu, you can also just disable it so that you don't accidentally press it. But again, it's nicely recessed, and I doubt you would actually accidentally push it. We have our rear command dial here. And then next to that, we have our AEL AFL button, so auto exposure lock or autofocus lock button, which is also a customizable button. So personally, I don't really use this button for auto exposure lock or autofocus lock, so I like to map it to a different function. Next to it, we have our drive delete button. So while I'm in the shooting mode, this will allow me to choose the different drive settings. So whether I want to shoot a still image or some bursts or some bracketing or some advanced filter, or get access to the movie mode. If I'm in the playback mode by pushing on the play button, this will actually be a delete button. Now, moving on to the 8-way lever. So we can use the 8-way lever to move our autofocus box around. We can push in it to actually use the rear command dial to change the autofocus point size if we want it really small, really precise, or if we want it to be bigger. And then we can half press on the shutter button to get out of there. And then again, just move our focus point around. We can also use our finger, as this is a touch screen, but I really like to use the joystick personally. Now, the joystick can also be used to navigate the menus. So you can just navigate the menus using the 8-way lever and push on it to make it act as the OK button. And then underneath that, we have the menu OK button, which is pretty self-explanatory. The play button, which we got to see, this is to go into the playback mode. And then we have our display back button, which will allow us to navigate through the different option in terms of what we display in our EVF and our LCD. Now we get to the EVF. So as I meant, well, the hybrid viewfinder, as I mentioned before, because the X100V is featuring in hybrid viewfinder, so you can either have a optical viewfinder or an electronic viewfinder. Now, we have the eye sensor here, so whenever you bring the camera up to your eye, it will switch between the LCD and either the optical or the EVF. Now, the EVF has, the EVF has a nice and pretty surprising 3.69 million dot EVF. So a really high quality EVF to make sure you can see a lot of details whenever you're framing your shots or you're reviewing your images. So that's for the EVF. And then next to it, we can see we have a diopter adjustment that you can set, and then just forget. Hopefully you won't have to change it again. Now, the last feature of the back of the camera is a first for the X100 line. It's that, and then you could actually miss it because it's so flush. It's the fact that we have a tilting LCD display, which is, as I said before, also touch. So it is a wide 3-inch LCD display with 1.62 million dots, so a lot of resolution on this LCD. And then you could also program some touch functions if you'd like to get quick access to some functions. You can move your focus point around, as I said. You can also change the mode to have it well, I got a touch function activated. You can change the way it behaves to actually shoot some images, or you could turn it off altogether. So that's for the LCD, and that's it for the back of the camera. Now, if we look on the side of the camera, we have some ports. So we have a 2.5 millimeter microphone or remote release input. So if you wanted to record some videos and have a microphone to improve the audio quality, you could use a microphone plugged through there. Now, we also have a USB-C port that can be used to charge the camera. It could also be used to monitor your audio if you have a USB-C to 3.5 millimeter adapter. You can plug in some headphones and then monitor your audio, because let's not forget the X100V can record 4K video up to 30 frames per second. So if you wanted to do that, you could do so as well. Now, this USB-C port is also PD compatible. So if you wanted to use a battery brick to power the camera, whether you want to do some time lapses or you want to shoot some movies and you want just really long battery life, you could use a battery brick like this that's PD compatible and then plug it into the X100V, and then you would get a lot of battery life. So that's it for the USB-C port. Now, the last one, we have a micro HDMI port, so that if you want to use the X100V again to record some video and you have a 4K recorder, an external recorder, you could use it to get an uncompressed signal to the through the external recorder. So that's for the HDMI port. Now, we've done a good walk around the camera. So let me just show you actually what comes with the X100V when you buy it, what comes into the box. So first, we have a nice metal lens cap that obviously just goes like this. So that comes included with the camera. We then have a battery, obviously, NPW126S battery. We have a USB cable that's USB type A to USB-C to charge the camera or to transfer images as well. And then lastly, we have a shoulder strap, so a nice leatherette shoulder strap. So that's what comes with the X100V in the box. Now, I want to show you a couple of optional accessories for the X100V. So first of all, I would definitely recommend, I always recommend you get a second battery. So NPW126S battery, really useful. You don't want to be out shooting and running out of battery. So that's my first suggestion. Next, we have this, which is the lens hood and the filter adapter for the X100V. Now, you could get these separately as the AR-X100 separately, or the LH-X100, or you could get them together. Now, this will allow us to use our next accessory, which is a PRF49 protective filter. So I will just simply screw it onto the AR-X100, and then on the front of the camera, I would simply remove this piece. Now my hands are slippery. I can't get it off. I'll get to it. I really put it on tight. Okay, I got it. Joys of the live. So we removed this little ring here. And then by putting the AR-X100 with the PRF49 filter onto the X100V, the camera becomes weather resistant. So the body itself is weather resistant, but the lens, because when I'm focusing, you see the barrel of the lens is going to move in and out of. Do I have some power? Oh, I need a battery inside the camera. So what I wanted to say is that whenever you focus, the lens is going to move in and out of the camera. So you can see it moving. So this can't be sealed. So by having the AR X100 and the PRF49 filter, we will be able to make the camera weather resistant. And then obviously after that, you can put on the lens hood. Now, another accessory that's really nice to have with this is a 49mm lens cap. So that way you can just have your filter protected whenever you put the camera into your camera bag. I see the time is running, so I'll try to get on. So next accessories, we have the WCL X100 II and then the WCL X100. So these are conversion lenses. So if you wanted to have a 28mm equivalent on your X100, you could get this. And with the version 2, the camera will automatically detect that you've put on the conversion lens on it. So maybe you can see on the top here. And then as a tip, if you do own the lens hood, it will also fit onto the wide adapter. And then the next one is the TCL X100 version 2, which will give you an equivalent of 50mm in terms of focal length on your X100V. So that's it for the X100. We have a little bit of time to talk about the X-Pro3. So let me put all of these aside. So if you like the rangefinder style of cameras like the X100V, but you would like to have some interchangeable lenses, the X-Pro3 would probably be the best camera for you. So this is the X-Pro3, and in terms of layout, it is pretty much identical to the X100V. The only difference is that the LCD is actually hidden, and then you have an e-ink display on the back of the camera. So if you want to have an LCD, you would have to bring it out just like that, and then it could also go down to this point. And this is also a touchscreen. So I want to show you the X-Pro3 with a couple of different lenses. So let's first put the ones I think works best with the X-Pro3, which is the compact f2 lenses with the Misfit 16 2.8 in there. So just want to show you what it looks like with the 16mm attached to it. So very nice and compact, 2.8. So the 16mm will give you an equivalent of 24mm. This is how it looks. The X-Pro3 with the 16mm on. Now let's get to the 23, which again would be basically like the X100V, and that's my favorite focal length, again, as I said, because it's very versatile. So that's how it looks with the 23mm f2. Next, I think we have everyone's favorite, the 35mm f2, which will give you an equivalent of 50mm. And then lastly, for the compact f2 primes, we have the 50mm f2, which will give you an equivalent of roughly 75mm. So very nice for portrait shooting, and it will give you a nice shallow depth of field as well. This is how it looks, the X-Pro3 with the 50mm f2. Now I want to show you very nice combo. That would be the X-Pro3 with the 50 mil f1. So gorgeous piece of glass. And then again, 50 millimeter f1.0. That's how it looks. Pretty nice. And just as a side note, I do want to show you quickly an example of print that I shot with the 50 mil f1. You can see the bokeh on this lens is quite incredible. And as a side note, I would say print your images because they look so much better when they're printed on paper. So that was shot using the XF 50 mil f1.0. Print your images. They look so much better on paper than on the screen. So let me get back here. So that's the X-Pro3 with the 50 mil f1.0. So I just want to show you quickly. Let me get just a random lens on there. So the 50 mil f2. I want to show you an accessory you can get for the X-Pro3. So we have the metal hand grip. So if you want to give yourself a little bit extra in terms of a grip, so let's use a coin here. So if you want to get a little bit of an extra grip on the X-Pro3, you can get the metal hand grip for the X-Pro3. All right, so that wraps it up for this hands-on with the X100V as well as the X-Pro3. I hope you enjoyed this little hands-on video, and I want to thank you for tuning in to this live. I want to thank Vistek for putting up this great event, ProFusion 2020. And so, like I said, we didn't go into details about each cameras, about the specs and the functionalities of them, but I do want to say you will find pinned in the comment section, we do offer tech time sessions. So if you have any questions about any cameras, Fujifilm cameras that you're looking to buy or that you already own, you can book an appointment with a product specialist, and we'll be happy to help you in this 30-minute appointment where we can chat and discuss any questions you have regarding Fujifilm cameras. So please take, if you're looking to buy any Fujifilm cameras or lenses, please do check out the Vistek event website. There's some special prices for the ProFusion event, and these will be live only for the 2 days of the ProFusion event. So this was Francis, and again, I hope you enjoyed this live about the Fujifilm X100V and the X-Pro3. And again, I want to thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. Thank you.